Yeah, I was very much aware. I was very much aware, just based on the acts that was leading up to that. I was aware that was just a matter of time, So it wasn't a shock to me when it happened. It wasn't a shock.
Now, how long after did you start feeling any sense of regret or remorse?
I would say I went to the hole in 2021, 2019, I believe it was, in or 20. And that's when I was back there in the hole. So when I was back there in the hole, of course, I had my brothers reaching out to me like, what's wrong, what's going on? Of course, I was in denial, like, man, nothing wrong. I had assault on the police, and I felt like, hey, I'm not really tripping. But just the letters, the content, my mom reaching out like, man, what's up? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, it seemed like you slipping into the dark. For me, it just made me reanalyze everything. And then I had a name, right? And his name was Hopkins, right? So he came and told me one day, like, man, when do you start living your truth? And then that was my aha moment. So from that moment, I just start to look within myself internally. And I start to do certain things to make me face myself. Then later down the line, over time, I think my actions start to demonstrate differently because the remorse, it wasn't even just me feeling, it was just me showing, right? And that caused me to really, basically leave the politics alone. Tell myself, look, I'm not doing that no more. This is what I want because I'm dealing with the Chow. And I think that's what really took the change right there, being in the back. Somebody telling me, when you live your truth, and then really asking myself, what do I live my truth? I can do it for any and everybody else, but when do I give it to the Chow? That was my aha moment, just to give it to me.
Good, man. Good. I'm so glad to hear that. Good. I could definitely hear it in the case, brother. I didn't know you then, but I can hear it. Good feeling. That's a beautiful thing. So, moving forward, what do you want your legacy?
That's just it. You have to erase pain, come to terms with yourself as a man, deal with your inner demons, deal with your problems, and come out better. I say come out, I don't mean come out of prison, come out of the situation better. You might be here on the street, dealing with certain situations, dealing with certain anger, some sort of mental health crisis. And there's ways to deal with it. There's help for us. But don't take the anger out on anyone else and put yourself in a predicament that can cost you the rest of your life.
To be from this moment forward.
Okay, so my legacy for myself, right? Now I have dollars. That's for one. So knowing what I know now, where I was then, the state of mind, if I can give it back to my younger self, right? My legacy is basically bringing the light to the find comfort in the darkness, right? Whether that's mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, and just changing the narrative, bro. That's my main thing, changing the narrative. It's one thing when we in a community and a lifestyle that prides destruction over healing. It's one thing when we sit there and have status over empathy. It's one thing to do that, but to really just to change it, like it's okay to sit there and be fine with certain things and we don't have to be members to make our family proud. We don't gotta be members to get the recognition. We can do something different instead of being what my community wanted, being something that my community need. That's what it's all about for me. That's something I don't really feel as my legacy,
What's something that you wish somebody would have told you prior to you getting in this situation?
It's not even I wish somebody would have told me. I wish somebody would have just grabbed me, because you can tell me all day, hey, Deshaun, don't do this, don't do that, because I had, but that wasn't enough for me. I needed hands-on. I needed it to be like physical. So for me, it's just really, don't just tell me something. Show me. If you saying stay out of the street, okay, what's the alternative? What's my outlet? If I can't be in the streets, if you don't want me in the streets, give me something where I can channel that energy, where I can be better than what I may become if I'm like invested in the streets, So really, that's really what it is with me.
It sounds like you're explaining or you're saying like it's cruel to tell somebody not to do something without giving them enough action.
Yeah, because you just running them to a wall. You tell me you don't give me A, B, and C, like that make no sense. I'm telling you, don't go out there and game tonight. But I'm not gonna tell you to go out there and get a job, and this is how you can do it, and this what this looks like, this the benefits of that. I can tell you multiple benefits, different other. But when it comes to the game, I'm gonna tell you, all you get is the attraction, the reputation. If you can get prison or death, which one do you want, really? So just really getting into that.
Gotcha.
I mean, he's an intelligent brother. Obviously, has come a long way. articulate and is remorseful for his crime, apparently. And I understand some of what he's saying, that people showed him or told him a different way. Or told him that this way wasn't the right way, but yet he still didn't show him a better. Someone would just say, well, don't gang bang, but don't tell him how to get a job and how to work. I understand. However, some things sometimes you must figure out. Some things are wrong, unfortunately.
Boy.
Right now. Secondly, I believe that telling someone not to gang bang and why they should not gang bang should be enough. Even if the person doesn't have the necessary tools to tell you what to do instead or how to do it instead, they are still coming from a righteous place telling you that this is wrong right here. Not to do away with this. What you're gonna do, I don't know. But don't do this. Gang banging leads to life in prison, destruction, death. So don't do that. So maybe this individual, maybe myself, may not have the skills to take, well, do this instead. This is where you can be productive at, even though our hearts may be in the right place. We don't have the necessary skills yet. But we can still speak to this is a destructive path because we've been on that path, and we know that you need to take another, regardless of what that other path is, or whether or not you're path direction or not. The fact is, you need another path that is better than this one.
Man, so if you could say anything to, say your 15-year-old
We not got enough veggies, y'all.
My 15-year-old self, pay close attention for one, and it's okay not to be okay at times, and it's okay to ask for help. If you don't know, just ask. If you don't really want to do something and you don't feel like that's you, and you know it's not you, find an environment that can cultivate that inner side of you that will make you blossom into something that you know that your community is filled with. This is what we do. So if you can find something different, find it and stick to that, because everything that glitters is not gold. It ain't really what it seems, you know? So that's what I told my younger self.
So you've been lied, you've been lied to a couple of the guys out of the yard. Also said that they adopted a false belief system, and it took them into prison here to recognize that they were gangbanging against people who looked like them. Some of them who were their family members that they just didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So that was something that was heavy, you know, when I heard that today. And it's like when I came here, like my so-called enemies became my friends and my support system, helping me get through. Do you have a similar experience?
Absolutely. I mean, even the one that came with y'all, the Mom Burns, you know, we grew up together. You know, we used to be in juvenile hall together. He was from the opposing team, you know, so of course we used to have our little fights and stuff like that. But even when I came in here in this situation, all that stuff was down. That was the first person that came to my door and checked on me. It wasn't somebody of my own community. It was somebody outside of that. So for me, it shut the barriers down. Then when I start to get into certain things or different information, I started getting exposed to that. It made everything different. Like I was out there looking, really, I just basically had a hood on, look for somebody that looked like me. I had a different warped belief system, of course, you know, but that's what my community was. I don't shame it, you know, but of course my experience was like that because that's what the lifestyle was. That's what we held dear to, you know? So yeah.
So question.
And true, and that's just the community, bro. You know, but we have to get out of that mindset, out of that sort of environment, and you know, not run from the community, but change the mindset of the community. Stay in the community and change the mindset of it. So that's it, man. As I've said before, you commit crimes for your gang, you go to prison for your gang, you do life in prison, 226 years for your gang, for killing a so-called opposition to your gang, a so-called op. And so now you get life in prison for killing this op. Then you go to prison, and now you're cool with the op that you were in prison for. That's who came to his cell door to check on him. His so-called op. Because now y'all you in prison now. Y'all gotta stick together. But you in prison for the rest of your life for this. How does that make sense?
What's a common misconception or something that you feel like people believe on the outside about people who come to prison that you know is not
Yeah,
true?
some ghetto. I'm not throwing that away.
That's the main thing, right? So they
My
had
force
something called
clean.
the California model. The first pillar of the California model
If you
was
don't believe me.
normalization, right? So when you see people
Ex-Bureau.
here, you
Bureau,
know,
keep
you
the
don't
force
see
clean.
whether they did whatever horrific the crime was, you don't see work being done. You don't see the atonement process taking off. You don't see them acknowledging certain things and doing that. Not to say that we want gratification for that, but you don't see that. So of course, when you come into prison, you see, man, these dudes don't care. These dudes are hardcore. This and that. A lot of people do care. A lot of people just didn't have the support. A lot of people didn't have the foundation. A lot of people just didn't have that. So why shame somebody who just didn't have it? And the people who did have it, sometimes they were just misguided. And they just didn't have the people that can be in the front of them right then and there to guide them in the right way. So, you know, I would think that's the most thing that we just don't care. We're not doing the work. When you'd be surprised how many people you can put in front of you and sit there and tell you their whole life story without no shame, because this is what it is. But they didn't just get there overnight. It took time. It took work, you know?
Right. So one thing that it sounds like you're describing is accountability.
Absolutely.
And you're saying that there's a sense on the outside that you guys don't hold yourself accountable or take
Sure.
responsibility for your
Sure.
actions when it's quite the opposite.
Absolutely.
Definitely something that I noticed when coming in here, when I'm on the outside, I tell everybody, I say some of the most accountable people that I do know have been behind the walls or I've met behind the walls. You know what I'm saying? So definitely interesting when it comes to that. What's something about you that most people wouldn't know about you by just looking at you?
I'm a Muslim.
Okay.
I'm a Muslim. I don't think a lot of people know that, you know. I think my conduct speaks, but you still wouldn't know, right? I think that's one. Another thing is, you know, I'm really like a geek, a nerd, you know? Like me running around with my shirt tucked in on the yard, that's not new. This is what I was doing on the street. So, you know, that's something that's really me. That's who I am. So even when I meet people, I don't tell them, oh, this is who I, you know, was. You know, my name is Chow, because that's who that's who I represent myself, you know?
Right.
So that's really it.
What does freedom look like to you?
Freedom.
That's cool, man. You know, it seems like this brother has come to some realizations, some revelations, and at a young age. And of course, prison will do it. Will do that. You lose your freedom, you lose your lifeline. You have to come to terms with it in one way or another. But it seems like he's done away with the games and is trying to better himself in one way or another, or in every way, and find himself out of there, find his way out of there. You know, and he seems very respectful.
Water's boiling.
I just hate the fact that oftentimes it comes to this, before you get it, that you have to go to prison with a 226-year sentence before you get it, and now you have to hope that your new talents can be bestowed upon the world, that they give you a chance to improve the world with your talents, because there are so many talented people behind prisons that can actually shape and help to change the world. But many of them will never have the opportunity to give based on ill-advised decisions that they made.
What does that word mean to you? What does it look like?
Breaking the chains out of your mind. So I think when you think about that, or I think about that, when we talk about freedom, it's more just a physical thing, right? If I have the freedom to think, you know, even when it comes to a decision, I got right or wrong, I got the freedom to choose. And I think when you find yourself in a space where you can make a decision, whether this could benefit me or whether this could, you know, be a liability to me, that's freedom to me. When you can explore these different options, rather than you just being closed off and you don't know nothing else but only what you know. I think that's really freedom. It's really just the mental thing, the spiritual aspect of it.
Absolutely, man. So if they opened up these gates here today, what's the first thing you would do?
I'm gonna go check into some therapy. Absolutely. And the reason being for me is mental health is everything, right? You know, it was a stigma, but I felt like mental health is everything. It's one thing to transition. Bro, I was told I had 226 years of life, and then they tell me in the next 3 years, hey, Deshaun, you going home. Okay, that's good. You know, even then, it's so much going on. I want to transition myself. So the first thing I would really want to do is check in the therapy, just really check on my mental health and make that a norm for myself, you know, so I can check with me.
Yes, absolutely, because there's nothing wrong with mental health assistance, brothers. Should you need something, there indeed has been a stigma in the black community about mental health. It's perceived as some sort of weakness or so. If you need mental health, if you need therapy to work through some issues that you may have personally. But I'm here to tell you that that's a fallacy. That's fallacious thinking. There's nothing wrong with mental health counseling or therapy should you need it. Do not be ashamed to go get it and save yourself and save your life.
Because I'm not expecting the next person to check. I wouldn't even check for my daughters or my wife to do it, you know? So it's just really taking care of me first. That would be the first thing.
So, forgive me if I'm incorrect, but did I hear you say 3 years?
Yeah.
So you're going home in 3 years?
I mean, I'm not saying that,
Okay.
but I'm manifesting that, you know?
Okay.
So the work that I do, I take it serious, you know? I don't sit there and get caught up on BS. So I put myself in spaces for a reason so that can happen. That's a reality to me, you know? And I don't get caught up on the numbers, you know? Of course, I have time to do, but the way prison is working, the way that I'm, you know, willing to sacrifice myself for the greater good, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
What would you give?
Yeah, and that's true. That's the way prisons work now. I'm sure he's referring to the fact that many people with extensive prison sentences now are coming home. They're not doing life in prison anymore, even though they have life sentences. They are coming home. So you have a chance. You're going to have to put in some sort of time, keep your nose clean, but the hope is not lost.
In this moment to be free?
Time, really. I just give my time. And I think that that's the most valuable asset I can give rather than giving anything else, you know? Yeah, my time, because my time in exchange for my freedom, I took freedom for granted. I didn't even know what that looked like. So now I'm being in this space, and if I'm asked this question, like, what would you give for your freedom? My time. Because it's in time when you sit there and find things that you didn't know about yourself. It's in time where you can sit there and relax and really pay attention and get into it. You know, even the most softest or fragile parts of yourself, it's in time that you can find all of it. So I'll give my time.
It sounds like clearly you're willing to sacrifice your former self for that freedom.
Absolutely.
It's a big sacrifice, brother. You know, I commend you for that. Now, you know, obviously today, you know, we came out, we had fun.
We were
We smiled, you know,
Absolutely.
and people today will see the brighter side of prison. Can you speak to just a couple of those darker moments, or just
This actor trying to maximize profits from his time on the This actor trying to maximize profits from his time on The Sopranos as much as he can. I mean, only recently he came out with a bobblehead of Vito, dressed like the guy in the Village People, Chaps too. But you know, the guy is trying to earn, and as we spoke about, he had a major gambling problem. The cast rumors, though, in my opinion, from the research I did, I actually feel like this was in the main made up, or at least exaggerated by actor Steve Storipo, who played Bobby Bacala, who held a vendetta against the Vito actor. You can learn more about this in the 2 videos I did of it. So I came across something since then, something I would have definitely added if I knew about it at the time. It's an interview that starts off pretty normal, but descends into an absolute farce, and I'm sure Sopranos fans will find it interesting and entertaining. It's from a YouTube channel called The Zach and Steve Show, and it's called The Boys Fuck with Vito. The video only has just over 700 views, and I think this is a pair of fellas who just make videos for their own amusement, but they landed an interview with the Vito actor, which descended into chaos. It sounds like they paid for a half-hour slot, but didn't really have the intention to do a serious interview, and I thought I'd just share some of the highlights. I mean, there's 2 ways of looking at it, I get. It's over 700 views, and I think this is a pair of fellas who just make videos for their own amusement, but they landed an interview with the Vito actor, which descended into chaos. It sounds like they paid for a half-hour slot, but didn't really have the intention to do a serious interview, and I thought I'd just share some of the highlights. I mean, there's two ways of looking at it, I guess. These guys are clearly trolling Ganascoli, starting off subtly and then slowly making things more blatant. If it's intentional, some of their comedic timing and delivery is actually pretty great. And to his credit, Ganascoli gives as good as he gets, or he pitches as good as he catches, I should say. And it ends up at a stage where you can't tell who is trolling who. Plus, they actually ask the kind of questions that established interviewers would never ask, like whether he really does sell bootleg merch. At the same time, you could say that the duo came off as a pair of high school girls giggling in their chit-chat room, wasting an opportunity to ask interesting questions to someone who starred in one of the greatest shows of all time. And Ganascoli did seem to try to keep his cool for as long as he could. Maybe it's because of fan interactions like this that actors like Ganascoli get irritable. Make of it what you will. It starts off pretty decent, if not a little awkward, like here.
So obviously everybody, and so it's a whole new cast, plus Jimmy's son, which is pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's going to be great. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's all I know.
The duo then asked if Ganascoli knew any inside information about the movie The Many Saints of Newark, which he didn't. And he added that the Sopranos set had a lot of secrecy about it regarding script leaks.
Yeah, well, loose lips. Yeah, well,
Yeah, that's true. I don't want everybody leaking stuff on the internet.
yeah, they're pretty tight, but they always were. Is that why Furio got kicked off the show?